Welcome back. If you watched my review video on the SR189, I appreciate it. And we're back today because the boy got all excited yesterday because he got a goodie in the mail. He's got new graphics for this. So today we're going to show you how, at least I do it, take off graphics and put new on. So stick around.
Check this.
So here's what we're working with today. Brand new graphics. Boys all excited about these, and they look pretty sweet, I will say. Me and Hip sat down, and my stuff is sliding around. Don't do that! We sat down, navigated their website, and we picked out the scheme and some of the stuff that he wanted on the graphics. These are from BRM Offroad Graphics, so check them out. BRMOffroad.com. And this is a disclaimer. I am not paid to do this. I do this on my own. So we're going to get these on. And maybe some spoke covers. But first, we got to get these old graphics off. Like I said before, in a previous video I think it was, right now BRMOffroad.com is the only company that I'm aware of that is making graphics for SSRs. I normally buy my graphics from singegraphics.com. That's where I get the graphics for my 450 and my boy's 450. But they don't have the templates for the SSRs. So let's get started. We got to get these other graphics off first. So there's a few ways you can take these graphics off. You could just grab a corner and just rip them off. But then you take a chance of some of the glue still being on there, and then you got to get it all off. You can take it to a car wash and get the water pressure up underneath of it and get them off. But there again, you're not always going to know you get all that glue off. And you can take a heat gun to them, which is what I like to do. I just like to heat them up just a little bit. Nothing crazy. Just get that glue to start moving, not moving, but get that glue warm. Start taking them off. Makes it a little easier to work with. Okay, now that I got that off, let's see if I got any glue residue on there. And it doesn't appear I do, but I'll double and triple check it again before I start putting it on. Now the next thing you want to do is you want to make sure that this is very clean. You want to wipe it down with good soap, maybe even some alcohol to prep this. That way you get any residual glue, any residual oils from your finger, anything else off of it, because those new graphics will not stick, or they'll stick, but then they'll eventually start coming off. Okay, after about 5 minutes and only burning myself once, I got everything off one side here. So we're going to get the front fender and the other side off, and we'll get cranking on installing the new. And okay, I got her stripped off, all sides, fenders, number plate, side plates, shrouds, everything's off of it now. And I went ahead and prepped it. Clean that plastic real good. Like I said, you want to use something that's alcohol based. That way it dries quickly. And you get all the residual dirt and grime, finger, oil, anything else off of it before you start applying the graphics. So I think we'll start with a couple of easy pieces here, and we'll start with the front fender and maybe the front number plate. Also, what I like to do is I like to lay them all out, sort everything out so I know what is what. So this is the front fender, fork guards, rear fender, front number plate. This is going to be the left side number plate and shroud, swing arms, and the, well, this would have been a right, and this would be the left side shroud and number plate. And they also throw in a bunch of other extras that you can or cannot put on your bike. But I like to lay them all out so I know what is what. So I'm not trying to sort out and figure out where what goes on. So starting with the front fender, I like to kind of get an idea of what's going where. This is a 3-piece. For this one, ignore those. Those are for putting on the car or whatever. Get an idea of, does it look like it is going to fit? Get an idea of how I want to do it exactly. That looks like it's pretty much on. Okay, so we're going to start with the tip or the very front of it. Like I said, make sure this is super clean, and also make sure your hands are clean. You don't want greasy hands and then start doing this. So I take a little bit of a soap solution with a little bit of alcohol in it. The alcohol helps dry it. Kind of spray it down a little bit. Like to heat the plastic up a little bit. Now you don't want to get this too wet. I may have sprayed a little bit too much on there. You want to heat that plastic up a little bit. That way it's pliable and you can move it if you need to. So I like to heat that up just a little bit, and then I like to just take and run the heat gun over it, just over the graphic itself, just a little bit, just to kind of warm up that adhesive that's underneath of it, just a little bit till you still kind of see it start rolling a little bit. Peel this puppy off. And then spraying this down allows you to move it around a little bit where you want it before you actually start squeegeeing it out. Try to get that centered the best you can. Need to come down a little bit. You always want to start in the center and work your way out, getting some of these air bubbles and whatnot out. Can be tricky a little bit. Biggest thing is take your time. Do not rush it. That way you get everything in the right spot. And like I said, start working in the center out, getting these air bubbles out. And if you don't have a heat gun, you can use a hair dryer. It takes a little longer for it to warm it up to the temperatures that you need, but they'll work. A lot of people don't have heat guns, so you can use a hair dryer. And like I said, by putting the alcohol into your soap solution, it helps it dry faster. So once I get it, and I don't think I have any air bubbles in it, then I like to take and hit it with my heat gun a little bit. Really kind of bond this to it, and this will also help dry that soap solution. and it'll help form the sticker to the fender, and it helps with air bubbles too. I turn it off, and then I like to use the rag for this too, because these can get pretty hot, especially if you hold it in one spot. But on the same note, you don't want to hold it in a spot too long, because it will, especially if you're using a heat gun, it can melt the graphic. And it can make the graphic thin. You don't want to get that graphic too thin in one spot. And that's looking pretty good. I don't see any air bubbles in it. So I'll hit it again with the heat gun. And it helps roll over your edges and stick to your edges too, if you got any edges or whatnot. Because let's be honest, sometimes these graphics don't always come perfectly sized. Sometimes you do have to trim a little bit off or tuck a little bit in somewhere. And that's looking pretty good. So I will work on the other two pieces and I'll check back with you. All right, front fender's done. I don't think it looks too bad. I've done quite a few graphics over the years, but I always like to start with a couple easy panels first before I start on some of the harder panels, because sometimes those shrouds and those number plates could be a little tricky. I don't think this one's going to be too bad, but they can be a little tricky, especially on the exhaust side where they are bowed out a little bit more or popped out. As you can see here and here, there's quite a bit of difference. And it's the same on my 450 over here. It really even has a flat spot here, and I had a heck of a time putting those on, even with doing several sets of graphics over the years. But yeah, I don't think it looks too bad. Let's start on the number plate. Now it can be a little tricky because of the brake hose, but we'll get it here. Okay, number plate time. Like I said, these can be a little tricky because of the brake hose, and also you want to make sure that they are going to be of the appropriate size. Now I know it's kind of hard with the backing on there to see if they're correct, to physically see if they're correct. But that feels okay. So let's get her prepped. Some of these larger panels, you do kind of want to soak that up a little bit. And you can see, I don't know if you can see, but as soon as I hit that with the heat, a lot of that dried up because I forgot to kind of preheat this a little bit. That dries up pretty quick with the alcohol in it. So I'll spray it down again once I got some of that warm here. Doesn't take long with this heat gun. So we'll hit her with that again. Warm this up a little bit. Like I said, doesn't have to be super hot. Once you just start seeing curl on a little bit, she's warm. It's warm to the touch. I think my heat kind of dried a little bit of that up again. Some of these larger panels, like I was saying, you do want to use a little more soap so you can slide this around to get it to where you want it. Because once it's on, especially good graphics, and these seem to be pretty good graphics so far. I'm liking the quality. They're good and thick. I think they're 26 millimeter. Yeah. Like I said, you want to start at the center and work your way out. Now it will slide around a little bit on you. That's where this, I like using a rag. You can also use a squeegee, but I like using a rag. Unless you got really like a felt type squeegee, you can end up scratching your graphics. That's why I like using these microfiber rags. It slid a little bit on me. See if I can't get it to slide over a little bit. And the rag helps soak up some of the soap solution that you're using. Once you got it sticking pretty good, then you can throw the heat to her. If I don't knock over my tripod. Alright, I got a little too warm right there. You seen that kind of bubble a little bit. It's where that graphic's getting thin. Held it in one spot too long. Turn the heat down a little bit. Let it cool for a second and really work this in. I'm not seeing any air bubbles, which is good. Number plate is done. So tell me what you think so far. Drop a line down in the comments, the bleep loops, the talking trash area, whatever you want to call it. Tell me what you think so far. You like it? You not like it? Something I'm doing right? Something I'm doing wrong? Let me know. I've got thick skin. I'm a cop. I'm used to it. Let me know what you think so far. All right, let's move on to a more harder piece. And the reason it's harder because it's bigger, obviously. And you got several angles to it. You know, this would be the top of the shroud. This is going to go all the way down near the number plate. But you also got these brakes in it for the curvature of the plastic. And these can be quite difficult to work with. So this is where I said in the beginning there when I started the fender is take your time. So I'll show you how I do these. Okay, same thing. Gonna heat this up a little bit. Now you do want to be careful around your gas tank using the heat gun because they do vent. So you do want to use caution around this. So I'm not going to get too much close to that vent hose on this for the accidental Boom. Don't want that. Got that heated up a little bit. Spray it down. And then once again, like I said before, this is where you want to use a lot. That way you can get this in position. You can slide it around. Warm this up a little bit. Like I said, get some of that glue warm, get it activated. And it can be tricky peeling this off with all these brakes in it. You don't want to pull too fast or too hard and end up ripping it. And you got to be careful that it doesn't touch itself and stick to itself. So it'd be a little tricky getting these off here. Kind of helps to have an extra set of hands. But my 12-year-old help was fishing. I don't know what he's doing now. I'm gonna hit this again. That way I can start sliding some of this in where I want it. Get these plastic bolts lined up. Now sometimes, depending on the graphic manufacturer, they don't always line up exactly. And in this case, looks like I might need to pop that seat off. I'm gonna pop that off real quick. All right, we got the seat off. That way we can roll some of this up where we want it. I'm gonna take my rag once I think I got it lined up everywhere. And it'll do that sometimes. Don't let it freak you out. Once again, you're going to try to start in the center. Piece of grass there. Try and work your way through some of this. And you want to try to do the largest flatmost parts first. And as you can see, it's still kind of soapy, so it's still wanting to slide around a little bit on me. I work on some of these larger pieces. And I don't know if you can see it in the video, but when I run across this, I'm squeezing some of this water out and it's running down on me, which is fine. Still put a bit of water up here, or soap, whatever you want to call it, solution. I don't know if you can hear it, but it's starting to tack up. so it's not going to slide on me so much. This still is. See if we can work some of this out still. And like I said, these are some of the most difficult ones to put on is around the shrouds and stuff, especially depending on the manufacturer and how they cut them and how they do that. Now I can start kind of taking the heat gun and start drying some of this up too. And this will help soften this up and it'll start sticking better. Get some air bubbles out. So I got an air bubble here. I'm not going to hold the heat to it, but I'm going to try and work it out. Could be air, it could be your soap solution. Just remember, don't hold it on in one spot too long. Especially around these eyelets that they cut for your plastic bolts. Heating them up too quick, they could really bugger up your graphics around there. And once again, it's a time process. Take your time. We're getting some moisture out of this corner here. If you can even see it. I don't know if you can even see it, what I'm doing here. So that's starting to stick pretty good. Go back down here and work this a little bit. And I'm going to continue to work on this and I'll check back with you. Okay, rather than making you watch that whole entire process and sit there and be bored, that's why I cut you off and said I'd check back with you. This has taken a little bit of time. I got about 20 minutes of working this in after I cut the last segment off here. But as you can see, I got everything rolled around the corners. Everything seems to be sticking good. Everything's lined up pretty good. The plastic bolt holes seem to be lined up pretty good, and I think it's looking pretty good. So I'm going to keep on trucking along, and I will check back in with you guys here after a bit after I get several more of these done. And voila, a couple hours later we have a finished product. Turned out really good. I will give BRM Offroad lots of credit. These are really good graphics. They're pretty good to work with. And I think they turned out excellent. The only thing I really had trouble with was these fork guards. They were a little bit tricky, but I got them. Turned out good. Swing arms, number plates, rear fender. Now, like I said earlier, that number plate was not fun, but I just took my time and I got it with no air bubbles. Actually, I don't know if I have any air bubbles at all in this. We'll check it again tomorrow. There might be some that pop up overnight. So what we'll do is we'll let this set, and then tomorrow I'll check this. Take it out in the daylight. See if there's any air bubbles that still need worked out. But it's always recommended that you let this set for a couple days or a day or two before you try riding it or anything like that, to make sure that everything sets up on it. And then tomorrow I'll also lightly go over everything with the heat gun again. Might be a little corner or something that peels up. Might not be, but I'll go over it again. And it's definitely recommended that you don't wash this for quite a few days till those graphics really set on there. But that is the finished project. So if you stuck around to see this part of it, I greatly appreciate you watching this video. I try to do the best with the videos that I can. Just a little structural video. Now, by no means I'm no pro at this, but I have done quite a few sets. And like I said, I think it turned out pretty good. I'm very pleased with the product. Like I said, if you stuck around to watch this much of it, I appreciate it. Maybe you ought to hit that bell, hit that subscribe, share, all that good stuff. It would help a guy. It would help a guy out. And if you like this video, I'll have more on these. I'll have more on this. I got the 450 sitting outside, the quad. We'll have several videos on this in addition to my audio videos that I do. So if you're interested in this stuff or car audio, hit that subscribe button. Fella, greatly appreciate it. So until next time, guys, wrap.